Yeah. Hold the fuck up and listen to what the fuck I got to say. Yo, what's up? It's Aidan Jones here, and you are listening to Sitting Under a Tree for Tuesday. As I get my thing out that I fucking realised that I left there, so I don't know the date. The 21st of April, and the year is 2020. And we're still in coronavirus lockdown. It doesn't really feel like lockdown anymore, to be honest. Oh, baby. You know what? I almost prefer the second cup of tea from a tea bag to the first. This is my, this here is my tea that I have with breakfast. And that tea bag is, I always do two uses of the tea bag because I fucking drink so much tea. I say like it's some sort of vice. It's just hot water. What the fuck is tea, to be honest? Like, I drink this Australian afternoon tea. That's what it's called. There's like English breakfast, and this is Australian afternoon, and it costs $11 compared to the $5 English breakfast tea bags from Woolworths. But I feel like it's nicer. I don't know why I feel that. And normally the first bag tastes like just like a normal English breakfast, but this second one, when it's weaker, there's something to it, man. I don't know what it is. I couldn't even tell you what the difference is, I don't reckon. But I like it better. I think I've been marketed to, maybe. The box is orange, not red, and so in my head I'm like, yeah, it's a bit more subtle. It's just a little less obnoxiousness to this particular variety. I reckon I can't taste the difference. I reckon I've been fucking had here, and I've just realised. And you know what, though? I'm going to keep buying it, because now I've like boxed myself in as that I'm the guy who likes Australian breakfast tea. It's me, man. It's just like, it's part of my identity, you know? Oh dearie me. But the second tea bag is fire. Oh, God, it feels good. I feel fucking good today, dude. Oh, we went out as a household yesterday and got Hungry Jacks. That was our little evening outing. I reckon we've been had by Hungry Jacks marketing-wise as well. They sent us an A4 sheet full of vouchers. What is that when a company is just going to send you that many vouchers? It's like, we know we're coming into a time of heavy competitive like action in the fast food industry. So we're just going to send you just vouchers for every single thing. Like, that's pretty much what it is. There's vouchers there for every single meal that you could possibly get. All different family meals and vegan shit and everything. And they're like, we'll send these A4 sheets out, and if 1 in 5 houses uses one, that's fucking a massive boost in sales for them. And so we did, man. There was me, Blake, and Liz, and we went to the Hungry Jacks. We drove out there last night, and you're supposed to use one voucher. Oh. Imagine if when you yawned, you started crying. Imagine if a yawn was somehow, if it brought up like past childhood traumas, and because it's inevitable, the yawn, isn't it? For me, anyway, they're overpowering. They just come like waves. Imagine if, like, I'm not gonna. I was about to say, imagine if, and then say like a specific awful thing that might have happened to you while you were yawning. Why would I say that? Why would I bring up? Why is that the joke that I've thought of? Okay, I am gonna cry because of a yawn. Why is that the thing that has come into my mind? Why have I just yawned, and straight away the thing that I think of that's supposed to be funny is like, imagine if you cried when you yawned. How is that a joke? I've just yawned, and straight away my mind has gone to, imagine if you were a person who has had some horrific childhood trauma visited upon you in your youth, so that now as a fully grown 29-year-old adult man, you still, to this day, would cry every time you yawned. It is funny though, isn't Imagine having a bad life. Imagine that. Oh, how absurd. I'm in a fucking good mood, man. So there's Hungry Jacks, we get there, and the vouchers are supposed to be one per visit. So if you come in with a crew, is it one per visit or one per person per visit? I don't know, but we did, just to be sure. Blake and Liz drove the car. Oh my god! If you're that person crying when you yawn, you're fucking having the worst time right now. Imagine a person who had to make a horrific joke every time they yawned. So they drive the car around through the drive-through and use one voucher. I walk in and I use the other voucher. So we both vouchers are for like 20. One's for 25 and one's for $20 meal. So they're like big, 4 burgers in each thing and some nuggets and chips and drinks, and one of them is a bag of cum. Fuck. Get your fucking focus, Aidan. Mind, matter, strength, physical. Here's what made me think that we've been had by Hungry Jacks is that when I went in there and I put the voucher on the table, on the counter or whatever, and the girl is like, the girl is ringing up my order. I just say, I just want this and I've got this voucher. And she rings up the order, applies the discount, and I'm going, oh, how much discount is it? And she's like, what? And I'm just like, how much? She goes, that's right. She goes, do you want a large or a medium? And I'm like, yeah, go large. And she's like, oh, that's $2 extra. And I was like, yeah, okay. How much money? I'm pointing at the voucher. How much money did I save with the voucher? And she's like, well, it's just large. It's like $2 more. So, that's why, because it's large, because that's not on the voucher. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's fine. I don't care about the $2. I don't even care really how much money it is. I just want to know how much money did I save with the voucher. And she's like, oh, it's $2. And I think there's a big miscommunication here, and to my great shame, I put that down to her not being white. So I was like, oh, she mustn't understand me. But then her voice was like, she had perfectly clear English speaking voice. So for a second I was like, oh, maybe that's that. But then I was like, no, it can't be, because she's speaking normally, so why doesn't she understand me? So I go in for one more try, and I'm like, oh, it's just how much money, I want to know how much money off of what it would have been do I get because of the voucher. And I put the voucher on the receipt machine there, like in front of her, and because I'm like, now, oh, maybe she hasn't, but no, but it's worth the same as what it says on the voucher. And she's like, no, yeah, just $2 for large, so it's extra on top of what the voucher would be. And it's like, oh god, we are really so far apart on how we're understanding each other right now. So I just go to leave it, and she finishes, and I'm like, how is that? How the fuck has that happened? How have you misunderstood me so much? 3 times. I'm pointing at the voucher. What have I said? What's going on here? I'm thinking maybe I'm out of touch with the youth. Like, she's probably fucking 16 or something. She works at Hungry Jacks. Maybe she's just not on the ball. Maybe they don't normally have to talk to people because there's not a lot of people coming in person. It's just delivery shit. I don't fucking know. And she puts it all in the till, and it comes up, and then she just, as she walks off, goes, oh, you saved $10. And I'm like, that's what I wanted. How much would the meal have normally... I don't even know why that matters to me. It seemed like she was kind of weirdly questioning, like, why does that matter to you? This is just how much it costs, so that's how much it is. But I don't... It's not about that, is it? I don't know how much Hungry Jack's costs. Like, 4 burgers and some chips and 2 drinks. I don't know what that's... Isn't that wild? I don't really understand how much money that's worth. Because, like, a burger, sure, but it's not a proper burger. It's a Hungry Jack's burger. It's not like a burger that you would get, like, at a pub or in a restaurant, or a burger that you would make at home. It's a burger from Hungry Jack's. And I don't know how much that's worth. Like, is that worth $2, $3, $5? $5? $2, $3, $5? $5? I don't know how much. I genuinely don't know what the value is of that. I don't know what it's made of. I don't know what the process is in making it. Fuck, that's crazy, isn't it? Something about gardening that gardening is teaching me is the value of a thing. Like, you see something grow from the ground, you see how much the tree produces, and you get an idea of how much, alright, so my tomato plants produced this many tomatoes for like 3 months. So now I have a bit more of an idea of how much land is required with tomato plants filling it all out to grow tomatoes to fucking make tomatoes for people. So I have a bit more of an idea of the monetary value, the time value that would go into something like that, and like the different ingredients, so like the soil and the water and the sun and whatever that goes into making that shit. So I have more of an idea of the value of stuff. And you go, okay, well if that's how much tomatoes you can get on my little area of backyard, then it's like, how many square meters of tomatoes would it take to feed like a town or whatever? And then once you have that calculation in your head, then you're like, what area of land does it take to raise one cow? And how many burgers can you get out of a cow, and wheat and whatever, all the shit. But with Hungry Jack's, I don't fucking know what is in... I genuinely don't... Like, if you told me there was newspaper in that burger, like actually last week's newspaper was fucking cut up and shredded and dyed brown and made into a burger, I wouldn't really be that surprised. That's insane. I don't know what's in the fucking burgers. And so when that lady was asking me what, like, well, not when she was, it felt like she was asking me with her, like, confusion. It felt like when I was going, how much money did I save just then? It felt like her being confused was kind of like her way of going, it doesn't matter, man. Like, that's how much it costs. So you just, that's how much it costs with the voucher. Without the voucher, it would have cost more, but it's not the situation that you're in right now, so why do you care? And the reason I care is because I don't know what goes into Hungry Jack's. So my valuation of the product is in part determined by how much it costs. That's fucking wild. Like, I'm getting 4 burgers and 2 drinks and some chips, and it's costing me $22. And in my head, I'm like, well, normally this burger would cost me. I start crying. Every time I hiccup, you start crying? Imagine that guy. What a weird guy. So, yeah, like I go in my head, normally a burger might cost $5 or $6 and I'm getting 4 of them. So that's already $20, $24. So everything else is like extra for free. But at the end of the day, Hungry Jack's is still making money. It seems in my head like I'm getting more value because of the voucher, but I wouldn't have gone to Hungry Jack's without the voucher. I would have just stayed home and cooked my own fucking burger with the mince that I literally have in the fridge. But instead we went to Hungry Jack's. And the real kicker was when I left the receipt on the... when I left the voucher on the receipt thing, on the printer, she walked away and didn't take my voucher. And then I got my food and I went into the car and Blake and Liz got their food. And Blake was like, how sick is this? They didn't take the voucher. And I was like, oh no. They didn't take my voucher either. It almost seems like they don't care about the vouchers. It's almost as if all they care about is the fact that we came to Hungry Jack's, and the little bit of paper that they sent us in the mail to remind us that they exist. Yeah, that was their fucking move. Their judo flip on us. We were going to go to KFC. That was Blake's original idea. Let's go to KFC, and then we had the vouchers and we went to Hungry Jack's instead. KFC should have sent out vouchers, mate. I slept like a fucking baby last night. Normally, so I woke up at 7:30. I went to bed at about 11:30, and I woke up at 7:30 to go to the toilet. This is crazy, actually. I've been thinking about this all morning. What's the time now? It's 11:38. I've been mulling this over for about 2.5 hours. Really just rolling it around in the old noggin up there. I woke up at 7:30 to go pee. and I went to bed at about 11:30, maybe 12. Like 12 at the late. I wasn't conscious after midnight last night, and I woke up at 7:30 to go pee, and Liz was in the kitchen, and I walked past her and was just like, "Oh man, I think I slept all the way through." And I went to pee, and then I went back to bed, and I passed out again for another hour and a half, and woke up at 9, and got up at 9. Like I saw that the time was 9, I was like, "Fuck," and got up because I don't like being up that late. And I've been thinking about how normally when I sleep, if I go to bed at midnight, I'm getting up at 6:30 to pee, or maybe 6, or maybe 5 or 5:30, or somewhere in between 5 and 7. I'm waking up to pee, and then I'll normally sleep for another hour, hour and a half, and get up at 8:30. And because of that, I think genuinely because we ate Hungry Jack's last night, and like I was pretty full, and then we sat around in the kitchen for another 2-3 hours chatting shit, but that was the food that was in my stomach. That put me to sleep just for a whole nother hour, that food. How fucking crazy is that? I don't know if anyone else finds that interesting at all, but that's so wild to me that food is just so heavy duty. It's dense. For you fucking touch a burger from Hungry Jack's or McDonald's, KFC, probably the same actually. Yeah, fucking the same. What am I talking about? You touch a burger from one of those joints and it's like a sponge. It's thick. There's no air in that burger. It's just dense food matter and grease and sugar and fat and salt, and it knocked me out for an extra hour. Like, the fact that I went to pee and then went to bed for another hour and a half, which is normal, that hour and a half, that means that my whole sleep wasn't stretched out. There was just an extra hour on the start where I needed to process that food before I could actually get into my proper sleep, and that's what kept me asleep for another hour till 7:30. Oh man, it's really pretty fucking scary that that's the shit that's going in my body. Bill Burr talks about that all the time, and so I'm going to stop talking about it because I don't want to be Bill Burr. It was good, man. Hungry Jack's for dinner last night. My fucking status incarnations are dead from my in my garden. That's a bummer. Oh, maybe I'll do that as a video. Maybe I'll do a video about like respecting dead plants, learning from the mistakes I've been really getting into backyard bitch this week. I'm trying to take it a bit more seriously. My thoughts around it is like, I was playing that game. I had to delete Civ off my fucking computer, man. Civilization 6 that I downloaded once for $80 and then downloaded again on Steam because I was going to play with my brother for another $60. And that was in the course of 2 weeks, and then I fucking deleted it on Friday. I just had a rush of like, oh, I can't do this, no! Maybe I'll fucking get it again and only play it with my brother. Because I was going to play with my brother, that was the whole thing. Maybe that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I'm only allowed to play with Dan. Otherwise, you fucking do not play that game. Maybe that'll be a nice little unwind for me, because I just play a fucking game with my brother. Anyway, I had to delete it because I was playing, dude, I think and Steam tells you how much time you've spent playing a game. So it was like, I think 25 hours on the Steam one that I downloaded. That was in like a week. I'd played like 25 hours. Yeah, it was too much. I was up till 2 a.m. a lot of nights just playing fucking Civ. I can't be doing that to myself. So, yeah, I deleted it, and I've decided to try and put a bit more energy into backyard bitch and YouTube and filming and doing all this stuff, because I realised my attitude towards the lockdown was very much like, oh, I'm just waiting for comedy to come back. And I'm sitting around and waiting. And downloading Civilization was my way of kind of telling myself that I'm not doing anything. I'm just waiting. I'm killing time. And it's like, why are you killing time, man? What? Because you're throwing a big tantrum because fucking comedy's gone? And am I just going to laze around the house not doing anything and just waiting until my favourite toy comes back? Like, it might be a month, it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, 2 years, who knows when comedy's going to come back. So I need to just fucking find a new thing. And when comedy comes back, I can do that again, and I can do the new thing. I'll have two things. And so my idea is YouTube. I'm like, all right, I've had this idea, backyard bitch. I'm doing videos about gardening. I'm enjoying gardening. So what can I do? My process and the work that I put into stand-up is I've been telling myself for years, ever since I moved to London, I realised about 2 years into comedy, I realised that you've got to write every day. If you're going to gig every night, I've always been someone who I've wanted to gig every night because gigging is the thing that I like. That's the part of it that I really love, being on stage. And to do that every night, to justify doing that, I have to write every day so that I've done the work in the day to make the gigging at night more fun. Because if I don't, then the gig just feels like I'm saying the same stuff I said last night. But if I've written some stuff in the day or worked on some bits or changed something or just put some effort into thinking about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, then the gigs at night are more fun. So the writing is the work every day that makes the at night thing more fun. And with this video shit, I think the bit that I really enjoy is not really being in front of camera. Being in front of camera, I think the bit that I enjoy is the editing. I enjoy seeing the stuff that I said to the camera and piecing it together to make it into a coherent whole. But to have stuff to edit together and create those videos, I need to be in front of camera. So being in front of camera in terms of video stuff is kind of analogous to writing in terms of stand-up, because it gives me the raw material that I need to then do the bit that's fun and create the finished product. And so I've decided I need to get in front of the camera every day. And I'm not going to enjoy it, I don't think, for the most part. Maybe there'll be some bits that I enjoy, but I want to get like, okay, I'm trying to also be a bit more planned in the way that I construct the videos, like having, you know, shots like that, 1 or 2 minutes of me talking to camera there. And every time I want to talk to camera, if I'm talking about soil, I'll get the stuff that I need to say, and then I'll say it, and I'm going to make a rule. I'm going to do 10 times every single time. I'm going to say the same thing to camera 10 different times, so I get comfortable in saying it, so I learn it a bit more, and then I find maybe some ways to kind of say it funny. 10 times is the rule that I'm giving myself. And that comes from years ago when a fucking hacky old comedian tricked me into giving him $50 to have lunch with him, to get, like, for some comedy advice, you know. The one thing that I remember from that comedian's advice was when you're trying to write punchlines, he didn't say punchlines, he said jokes, because he didn't even understand the own advice that he was giving. Oh, who am I to say that? Maybe he did, fuck, whatever. Why am I being aggressive to this guy? Because I'm resentful that he got me to pay him $50 for some bullshit. I remember he said, say you're trying to write a joke about books. Write down 10 things about books that you can think of. They've got pages, they're square, they're made of paper. You write down your thoughts in them, you write your name on the front. You used to have them in school. That's 6. What's 4 more things? They might have one of those little bits, like the bits of fabric, to keep what page you're up to. Sometimes they're really big and heavy. You might stand on one to go reach something in the cupboards, and you might throw one at your dog when you're upset with it. Right, so the first few of those things are just descriptive shit about books, but the 5th or 6th one, you start getting away from the normal stuff that you know about books, and you start thinking a bit outside the box. And by the end, you're really thinking outside the box because you just want to finish the list, you know? And by the end of that list, I've thought of throwing a book at my dog because I'm upset with him. And that may not be funny, but it's definitely weird. And that's kind of the place where your brain goes, you know? Or standing on a book to get something out of the shelves, like that kind of shit. And in much the same way that your brain works in going through that little puzzle, I think it'll be the same with videos. As if I film me talking about one aspect of compost, 3 or 4 times will just be me getting the material out, and then after that I'll get bored and I'll try and change it up, I'll make it a bit different, and hopefully film something that's kind of funny, and that can go into my videos. I'm very excited for that. I've got some cool ideas, I think. I've got some ideas that have made me laugh anyway, and whether I'm going to be able to pull them off and execute them in a way that... There's a couple things with making videos, I think. First of all, it's being able to execute it in a way that is true to the idea that I had in my head. So one of the ideas is talking about compost, go out into the garden, do the dig and drop method of composting that I've been doing, where you dig a hole in the ground and then you bury the stuff. And then digging up one of the holes that I did like 3 weeks before and finding the worms that are going through and breaking all the compost down, and like thanking the worms. So like hold a worm in my hand and I'm like, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I think that's funny, you know. There's, yeah, to like thank the worms and be really sincere, and there's that. And then if I can get the video to be the idea that I had in my head, the next thing is figuring out who would watch that video and why, and then how to market the video to that, or to make it appeal to those people. I'm thinking a lot, doing a lot of thinking for a change. I don't really think that much that often, do I? I think all the time. I can't stop. So yeah. What's another idea I had? I had this idea. Let me try and talk this out. I had this idea with grass, because I was looking up with grass. There's like a lot of weeds in my grass with like broadly leaven bread. There's a lot of bread stuck in my grass. There's a lot of leaves in there. A lot of leaves. Fuck. And I'm almost out of tea. Fuck off. Don't want to spill any tea on the carpet. Sorry. So, yeah, I've got my grass and there's a lot of weeds coming through, and I want to get those out, but I don't want to be in there every day pulling them out by hand. So I was looking up, are there other ways? And apparently there's been one study where if you put sugar on your lawn, the microorganisms in the soil will eat sugar and grow, and in doing so they also feed off nitrogen. So they'll take a lot of nitrogen from the soil and lock it up in themselves, and so for a few months there your soil will be quite low in nitrogen until the sugar runs out and these microorganisms die off and they're not so big or whatever, there's not so many of them. And in my head a microorganism is just like a little fat fucking, like a little dog, like a tiny microorganisms are just tiny little dogs, and when you put sugar in there they get a little bit bigger. That's the level of my imagination. I can't even imagine anything else. There's just big dogs and little dogs. So yeah, once they stop being all swelled up from all the sugar, they release the nitrogen back into the soil after like 2 or 3 months or whatever. But while there's low nitrogen in the soil, the weeds use a lot of nitrogen and the grass doesn't need a lot of nitrogen. So the weeds are stunted in their growth, the grass gets a chance to accelerate past it and hopefully gain a foothold on that area. And I was reading about that, so it's like, all right, maybe I'll spread sugar on the garden. But then I did a bit of more reading, and apparently that study is only on native vegetation versus introduced species. It's not actually for lawn grass. So I'm gonna get some sugar and I'm gonna get some regular grass growing weed killer stuff from the supermarket, put it on half and half like a haircut, and see how they grow. And then I was thinking, well, what other forms of sugar could I put on the garden just to test, you know? If I could put jam on the garden, that's got sugar in it, maybe that'll be something. Or like a cake. And then I thought of cake, and then I thought of candles, birthday cake. And I thought, well, rather than go and buy a cake and put it on my lawn and waste a cake, maybe I could just trick the weeds into thinking that there's gonna be some sugar, some cake coming, and they'll get scared and they won't grow. And, you know, because that's them being like, well, maybe if we don't grow too much, then he won't bring all the sugar and starve us. So I thought the way to trick weeds into, and this is me really getting pretty close to going insane, I think, this idea. If I could trick the weeds into thinking that I'm going to put cake on the lawn by putting candles around, like it's going to be a birthday cake, then they would be scared. And then I just thought, candles, why don't I just put a curse on the weeds? So I think actually I'm going to bin off that whole connection of cake and sugar. Does this make fucking any sense to anyone at all? Fuck. I mean, yeah, this might be a tenuous link. Basically, I just have a vision of me casting like a spell on the weeds, like being in a circle full of candles and reading out some sort of Latin curse on the weeds, and maybe that'll work. Anyway, the point is, I've had some ideas. I think I'm running out of energy, aren't I? I had so much energy at the start there, and I mean the time's done, but I feel like this is a bit of a whimper to the end of the podcast, and I don't really want to go out like this. We ain't going out like that. We ain't going out like that. We ain't going out. This song, I am going to go out like this actually, because this song that I've found for the pod today is so beautiful. It's called Turiya and Ramakrishna. It's by Alice Coltrane, who does share a name with John Coltrane. It was his wife for 4 years until he died suddenly, which I didn't know anything about any of that, but they knew each other for 4 years and were married very quickly, and he died. They made some music together, but she had a long and prosperous career after him, evidently. And I was just listening to an episode of the Guardian Today in Focus podcast, and the most recent one, they were talking about culture in the coronavirus epidemic, and what I was thinking it would be more of an analysis of how culture is changing, but it wasn't that. It was what cultural things can you consume if you're bored at home: books, music, TV, and evidently the Dad, no. Oh, fuck. Well, if anyone wasn't triggered before, you fucking are now. God damn. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. I actually suck as a person, I think. Evidently. The Guardian music blog are doing classic musicians that you've always meant to get into but never have. Where do you want to start? And she was one of them, and they played just a snippet of this song on the podcast to be like, this is an example of one artist, and it was like literally like 2 or 3 seconds of this song, but it was enough for me to be like, what the fuck was that? And I looked it up, and this song is they obviously picked the most played song of hers to put as a little snippet. So this is her like by 3 or 4 times the amount of plays, most played song on Spotify, and it's incredible. So that's what I want to play you guys out with. It's Turiya and Ramakrishna by Alice Coltrane. Thank you guys for listening this week, man. If you've been tuning in on the video stream, thank you so much for checking that out. Go and check out my Instagram channel, Aidan Jones Comedy, or Sitting Under Podcast for this podcast, and go check me out on YouTube for the Backyard Bitch videos that I've been talking about here. Thanks for listening. Have a great one. This has been Aidan Jones, sitting under a tree. Peace.